Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Gibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? Is real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to gabbing.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Til Mets Do Us Part. We're live on YouTube, live on Twitter, like we are each and every single week on Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern or thereabouts. Coming to you guys just a little bit late here today, but it is all good. Chat is already popping off. Hello to everybody who was here early, waiting, having conversations, greeting each other. We were able to see some of that while we were clearing things up on our end. John Saponaro out in Los Angeles, California. My co-host, Matt Ibanez, holding things down back in New Jersey. Ibby, how you doing, man?
It's a loaded question, John, after the conversations that we just had, but I am doing as best as I can. And like I said in the chat just before we went live, apologies everyone for the late start. That's on me. A little bit of running around because I, school started and I have some coaching that I'm tending to as well. A lot of stuff going on, so personal life as well. But it's Wednesday. I'm excited as always because that red light is on now, and I feel at ease. And John could tell you I wasn't at ease about 5 minutes ago, but I'm at ease now because I'm here with you, John. I'm here with everyone in the chat. We're going to have a good show. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about our Mets because we got 11 games left. 11 games to embrace this chase, to embrace the ups and downs, the butterflies in the stomach, the hanging on every pitch. This is essentially playoff baseball. We want to get there, legit October baseball. But what we're feeling and what we have been feeling for a while now, as the stadium is filled. We'll talk about that later. But people definitely have an energy about this team, and they should, because 11 games left. I'm feeling good. I hope you are feeling good, John. I hope the rest of the chat's feeling well when it comes to everything, but it's still tight. Anything can happen, but I'm ready for this roller coaster. Let's do this.
Armand saying, happy early birthday, Ibby. It's coming up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Saturday,
yeah. Jeff Cohen. So I guess this is the episode before your birthday. We're not going to have another. The next one will be post Ibby's birthday. Jeff Cohen, look at that. New York and NY baseball caps. Woohoo. We did not plan that, but yes, I guess depending on how you're reading this, it kind of reads a lot like New York, like how it would, on a letter or, if you're sending something out. Yes, Jeff, of course, you can do a shameless plug for your podcast,
Absolutely.
Baseball and BBQ, which is always a fun time. He's got an interview this week with former Met Butch Husky. So that is that's great. You should tune in, check that out. I'd actually like to hear from Butch Husky. I'm going to have to make sure I listen to that one.
I will definitely listen because growing up, I always had a thing like when it was like Butch Husky, Bernard Gilkey, like I kind of had an affinity for Butch. So, yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in to listen.
Absolutely. You definitely should get that wherever it is you get your podcast. And like you alluded to, like Douglas Barnes just says, these are the facts, guys, right now. 11 games left with a 2-game lead, currently tied for the second wild card, although technically, because of the tiebreaker, because of the new rules, you could say that the Mets really have sole possession of the second wild card as it stands right now because they have the tiebreaker over Arizona. The Braves lost. The Diamondbacks lost. the Padres lost, I was staying up and live tweeting it as I was watching the games on the
Hold on,
MLB app.
John was live tweeting it, but he kind of stopped for a minute, and then I had to turn on the TV at 12:30 my time to make sure he stayed up to date. So I kept on updating his tweets until he got back to it.
You did. That was nice teamwork there, and I didn't ask him to do it. I just kind of got distracted, and then I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I should probably. And I went back and made sure I got the final score out and everything like that. Crazy play at the end of that game. Crazy game with the umpires between the Astros and San Diego. The umpires were all over the place, man. I've not seen it. I have not seen a game, like a sports contest officiated that badly since. I don't know, probably Sunday when I watched an NFL game, because that's how bad those games are usually officiated. Ibby, Rosie saying this is torture because it's anxiety inducing, right?
It
gets your stomach turning. It gets you feeling not so great, right? But to quote a great line from a once great show that fell off harder than any show has any right to fall off, from Game of Thrones and Littlefinger, chaos isn't a pit, chaos is a ladder. And there has been a tremendous amount of chaos in the National League wildcard race all season. And the Mets, to their credit, have taken advantage of that, and they have climbed the ladder. Now, to Armand's point, DBacks win today 9-4. So technically right now a half game up on the Mets until the Mets play and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But Ibby, we've been talking for a couple weeks, probably 3-4 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets don't control their own destiny, but it feels like they do. The Mets are in a spot where, when you look at what's on the schedule, this is when they had, 30 some odd games, even 20 some odd games. We kept looking ahead and saying, you've got Atlanta twice more. You've got all these games with Philadelphia. You had these games, at one point they had games left with Arizona and San Diego where they took care of business and earned those tiebreakers. So while the Mets were still on the outside looking in, while they were looking up at all these other teams, we just kept saying it feels like they control their own destiny because it's all in front of them. If they win more of these games than they lose, they will get into the playoffs. Well, now we're out on the other side of it with just 11 games left, so much more of the season in the rearview mirror than what's ahead. But now the Mets officially control their own destiny. Yes, they have the hardest strength of schedule remaining. They've got Philly again, and they've got to play the Milwaukee Brewers. And, Milwaukee's going to win their division. They've got another series left with Atlanta. All true. It's not going to be easy. But I think the Mets are poised, man. I think the Mets are I think a lot of these players that saw how quickly it can slip through your fingers in 2022 and had to deal with what the hell happened, the fallout of that in a way in 2023. I think they know. I think this team knows what it takes to lose. So I think this team knows what it takes to win.
I'm glad that you brought this up quickly as the show's starting because I feel that, and I feel very confident. I do, and maybe that's a crazy thing to say as a Mets fan or what have you, and the things that we've seen in our history and what have you. Well, even recently when it comes to 2022 and the Braves coming on late or whatever. But the way this team has fought to this point, the way this team continues to fight, the way that Carlos Mendoza still continues to push the right buttons, the way that he has his finger on the pulse, the way that we're starting to pick each other up even more, especially in light of what's going on with Francisco Lindor and his back, and what Jose Iglesias is doing, and what Luis Angel Acuna is doing, and what he did last night. And we'll talk about that. Just, it seems like there is this energy there that this team knows that they belong. And I feel, and we've talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the comparisons between 22 and 24 and why we like this team because it's trajecting up, whereas 22 was going down. I just think that even though, and I saw in the comments before, we have our worries because we want our MVP. It makes us that much better if Francisco Lindor is at the top of our lineup. But this team is fighting enough, and I believe in them enough that they can get in, even if it takes, Lindor being out a handful of more games. I still think if they can create that space, if something can happen today or within the next day or two, where the lead becomes even bigger or what have you. I really think that they can hold on. I think this pitching was the biggest question mark, and they are first in every category. I didn't bring it up because I didn't have time to make it, but I think Michael Mayer posted it, and you can check his Twitter. They're first in every category when it comes to the month of September. This is a big month for this team. We needed the pitching to be there. I had been saying if the pitching can hold on, that's great, but the offense really has to start moving. The offense has slumped in spots. Last night was a huge spot. They dropped 10. Is this the start of the offense waking up? Is Pete Alonso turning it up at the right time? Is this the stretch we've been waiting for? This is going to take it to the final 11 games where we're going to see Pete Alonso do those Pete Alonso things. I just think that this team has the makeup to do damage and hold on. We'll see what happens. You got to play the games. We could talk all we want, but they got to play the games on the field. Okay. But do I think that this team is done based off of what's going on with Lindor right now? No. Would it be better if he gets back by, let's say, midway through the 4-game set with the Phils? Absolutely. If he's not there, does it worry me a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. But as you said, a lot of crazy things are happening within the NL when it comes to these games. Teams are losing games that you didn't think they were going to lose. Wildness is occurring. Umpires doing crazy things. Anything and everything.
Jose Altuve getting undressed on the field.
Jose Altuve getting undressed because he's trying to, which the ball did go off. Like, that was a terrible call, but that brings up replay and not being able to use it. That's a whole other story that we don't have to talk about because it'll be stupid. But this team, I really feel, has the bravado, if you will, to handle this situation and possibly, even get and hold on to the second spot. I'm not banking on that because I always just wanted to get in. It didn't matter to me, but I think they have what it takes to be the second wild card, but I also think that they could end up holding on to being the third wild card as well. So yeah, I'm feeling good about them. I am.
I am too. We'll jump back into the comments here. A lot of good stuff. First, this one from Douglas saying the Mets don't usually reward fans feeling confident, but I'm with you, Ibby. I feel confident. I'm with the both of you. I feel confident as well. We got Chris Ferraro checking in from Citi Field. Let's go. Mets, the sweep. Hope all is well. Thanks for checking in from the game. Hope you enjoy it. Hope the Mets go out there and get the sweep. Not just for Chris, but for everybody, for all of us, everybody here. This is a good one for Mr. Nobody, kind of just piggybacking off of everything you said and what Douglas said. Got to stay positive. There's no time left for negativity.
You're
right now where the Mets put themselves, I know I always say this, but sports are fickle. Sports are up and down. Teams are going to lose. They're going to have their downturns. If you endured, and we don't even have to go back far, Ibby, we don't have to go back to the Wilpons. We don't have to go back to the worst team money can buy. We don't have to go back to, some of the doldrums that happened in this team's history. Just go back to last year, season. If you watched last season and you were committed the way all of us were, and everybody here in this chat and all the people who listen to and watch our show, you know how bad it can be. This is great right now. You should be happy. You should be positive. You should be enjoying it. To Rosie's point from earlier, is it torture? Yeah, it's a little torturous. Sometimes I was watching the Jets game the other day, and I was talking to somebody, and the Jets go down to the wire. They wind up getting the win, ultimately taking care of business, really winning on all phases of football. And when you look at the simplest recipe to winning a football game, they did that and they should have won the game, but it was a little bit more anxiety inducing than it should have been. And somebody looked over at me and they were like, well, it's a good game. And I was like, I don't want a good game. When I have rooting interest, I don't want a good game. You know what I'm saying? I don't want a good game. I want my team to win, by 30, and I want it to be embarrassing. And so, would it be better if the Mets had a 15-game lead in the division? Yeah, of course that would be better. We would all want that instead. But that's not what we got. What we got is pretty damn good, especially compared to last year, especially compared to the history of our New York Mets. So keep it in the comments here for a second. Yeah. Charlie saying we need 2 out of 3 versus Atlanta to get the Braves-Mets tiebreaker. That is super important. But like I've been preaching, a lot of people said, it's going to come down to that final series versus Atlanta. I always said it was going to be important, but I said, look at the schedule, Look at the other teams. Look at the tiebreakers. This is not Mets Braves for one spot. This is a bunch of teams for a handful of spots where the Mets have already set themselves up in good position to walk away with at least one of these wild card spots. So yes, I want that other tiebreaker. Again, just win more than you lose, and you're gonna be fine now because you do control your own destiny. Another important part here from Jeff Cohen: Arizona finishes the season with San Diego, and the Mets finish with Milwaukee. I know I'm looking ahead, but there's a chance for the wild card spot number 1. There is, and there's just the concept of Arizona playing San Diego. One of them is going to lose,
right?
And so whether you are looking ahead a little bit like Jeff is, where you say, that one spot is still in play, whether you're just saying, like Ibby saying, I'll take any of the 3 spots, that helps the Mets, period. Because one of those teams is going to lose. They're playing each other. One of them is going to lose. And I know Ibby, about, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, I was seeing some things where people were like, man, the Mets really got to show out because at the end of the season, San Diego and Arizona play each other, and that's not going to be good for them. And I was like, that's great. Like,
yeah.
Someone's going to lose, right?
Yeah.
Now, yes, if they're playing other teams, theoretically, each team can lose all 3 games, but the likelihood of that happening is lower. Here,
right.
You have a statistical fact that one of
them is losing. Yeah.
Period. Because you have no other way to come out of that. So, I think that's important. And these are the 2 comments that I want to use to kind of jump into the next portion of this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you pick.
Sure.
So we've got Rosie saying, I would feel better about everything if Lindor was right. You already talked a little bit about Lindor. Mm-hmm. Jeff Cohen saying, Pete had a good game last night. Hope it continues the rest of the year. So obviously the Lindor stuff is big. The MRI being clean is great. Him coming back hopefully sooner rather than later is important. The Mets need him. He's the heart and soul of this team. But the Mets did have that team meeting that was started by David Stearns, with him and Mendoza. And the only other person to speak in that meeting about keeping people right and keeping people on task was Pete. And I liked what Pete said when he was like, we didn't get a chance to celebrate in 2022 because in that last weekend we lost the division, and it was like, yeah, we're going to the playoffs, but like, you're not going to celebrate losing the division.
Right.
Last year, the whole thing falls apart. In 2019, his rookie year, they make that late push. They don't make the playoffs. This might be Pete's last go around with the Mets. I hope it's not, but it might be. And you know what? We've been talking about Pete putting the game on his shoulders. Maybe it's late. Maybe he doesn't do it for the next 11 games, but what he said in the meeting and then what he went out and did on the field last night was everything that Pete needs to be for the Mets right now, especially if Lindor is not going to play. So I don't know if you want to take the Lindor tact or you want to take the Pete tact. It's up to you.
I'll go with Pete right now because I'll just continue what you're saying. It's like having those meetings, and people always have opinions on meetings and it's talk or what have you. And we've seen what they've done for this team when we think back to the Lindor and JD meeting and everything that turned from that moment. And now we're kind of turning back the clock a little bit, and we're trying, we're reintegrating again with the Grimace chair and the commemorative chair out in the Coca-Cola corner. Now you're having another meeting, and people are talking about trying to keep the faith and keeping spirits up because Lindor's hurt. And what if this happens? And what if that happens? Pete going out there and doing what he did. And I know, like, our chat was laughing when Pete, smacks shit out of the ball, and it's like a 65-mile-an-hour pitch that floats over the first base, but 2-run score. And I was like, that's a line drive in the books. In baseball, for me, I know as much as analytically driven that it is, but when something like that happens in a moment that you really need it to tack on, to help protect your pitchers, to help protect your pen, what have you, I don't care how you do it. Get the runs in. And he did that. And then something like that can trigger someone to feel better for the next at bat. And the next at bat, he parks one and he hits a home run. So it's like those things carry. And I know it goes beyond the analytics. That's more so looking at the baseball player itself or himself. But to me, I hope it's something. I'm not going to bank on anything because we've seen a flash here, a flash there, and then it disappears. Okay. And people still want to be the contrarian, if you will, and say, oh, it was a garbage time home run. It didn't matter. It was this, it was that. So I know people are still going to feel that way. And I want to see him continue to be successful in bigger moments. I need to see it to trust what he can do moving forward for us as we push for October. But to me, last night was a fantastic jumping off point for not just Pete, but for the entire lineup. Guys going out there and doing their job, putting up 10 runs when you are being put in question as an overall team when your star player is not there. They think that you're going to roll over. They think that you're not going to do anything. Well, if you're Pete, you're the one that's got to be there and say, look, I know Francisco has been here for X amount of years. I've been here longer. I know people view Francisco as the face of the franchise. I think I am a face as well. I have to do something now. I have to provide something. I have to have the game. If I'm going to be seen as speaking at this meeting and I'm going to have a report go out of the things I said in said meeting, I got to have myself a game. And he did. Hits the home run. What do you have? 5 RBIs? And now he's getting closer towards numbers that we're used to seeing. Can he finish strong? I want to see it. I'm not going to say it's 100% back, but last night was definitely a great step in that direction. And I hope it does, because even if Francisco's hurt, even if he is for the next 2 to 3 games, let's say, if Pete is starting to get hot and that creates opportunities to score runs and support the pitching that has been the best pitching in baseball for the month of September, it puts the Mets in a great spot to get to where they want to get to.
Yeah, before we move on to the Lindor stuff, this thing with Pete, yes, and this is true, Mr. Nobody, like right as I was about to say this, now is the time.
This is it, man.
From Rosie, hits are hits and runs are runs, need luck too.
Better lucky than good sometimes.
Absolutely. I don't subscribe. I've always said this. Like, I don't believe in must-win games until games are literal must-wins. Right. I think it's a very overused term in sports. Obviously, I understand what the term means, and but I think it's been used so much that it's lost its meaning, because people will be like, is this a must-win? I'm like, it's May 15th. Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, There's no must-wins on May 15th. So I think it gets overused. But sometimes a lot of these cliches get overused and overdone. And I don't want to hear that, what Pete did yesterday, that certain parts of it are garbage time. This is not garbage time. This is crunch.
Don't listen to the radio.
Time.
Don't listen to the radio.
This is, I won't. This is crunch time. This is, and Douglas chiming in, 11 games left. I think we're in must-win territory. I agree. That's how these things are supposed to be used, but it's been used to death by everybody, where it's like, it's week 3 in the NFL. Is this a must win? No, not really. No, it's just too much. But anyway, my larger point is this. You can't beg and plead and cry and scream and yell for Pete to do something, and then with 12 games left, after a meeting, he steps up as a leader in the meeting and then goes out on the field and leads by example by driving in 5 runs and by obliterating a baseball and doing. To me, it's not garbage time. This is go time. There's 11 games left. All of the runs count. All of the luck, all of the hits, all of the runs, they all matter. And I don't care if that lead gives them or if that home run gives them a 10-run lead, a 3-run lead, a 1-run lead. It matters, because you're coming down the stretch of the season. Ibby, it was a lot bigger last night after they got that big lead to be able to go to Ottavino and Brazoban than it would have been if they had to use Diaz or if they had to use some of their frontline relievers. Like, you have 11 games left. What you do today is going to affect what you do tomorrow and what you can do tomorrow with bullpen usage and starting pitching and what you do in the lineup. All of this stuff matters. So I know that people call me a Pete apologist. I know that people call me a Pete fanboy and all that stuff, but I would say this if it was anyone. I would say it if it was Brett Beatty, who everybody knows I don't like. All of this stuff matters. You got 11 games left, and you're trying and still fighting for a playoff spot where you do control your own destiny. None of it is garbage time. You want to talk about garbage time? Listening to the radio is garbage time spent for these idiots.
I mean, you're right. It's like all these things matter. It's like he finally does something, and then someone has the nerve
Which
to
moron
say,
was it? Just tell me who it was.
know who it was. I don't listen.
Was it Sal or was it BT?
It was Sal. And
of course it was. Yeah.
I didn't listen. I didn't listen. A friend told me, TJ from the chat told me about it, because he said like BT was actually being smart and saying things, and Sal was like, yeah, well, can't trust Pete. It was a garbage time home run or whatever. Then he's like, then I turned it off. And I was like, I don't blame you. I wouldn't have turned it on to begin with, but I don't blame you. But yeah, like he goes out and does these things. You have to start somewhere. Like something has to kickstart in a spot. So when it happens, I'm not going to say, that didn't matter, or that home run didn't mean anything. Like bullshit. It mattered. It means something. Okay. Whether it matters because we're trying to, like I said, to kickstart a guy to get to where we want him to get to. If you're going to do this in a big spot or at any spot during the game, in a game that you have to win, or you're trying to win, you're trying to sweep, whatever it is, it matters. It matters to everyone. So to sit there and have the gall, to have the balls to be nitpicking the way people still are when there's 11 games left, it's like you are in a place that a majority of you that are bitching didn't think that this team was going to be, because you thought they were punting, and you bitched about that for the entire year. Then now they're in a spot where they have 83 wins, 83, right? Or 84, 83, where they have that many wins. And I sat here and I predicted that they were going to win 84 and miss the playoffs. And I'm gladly happy that I'm probably going to be wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong on that, because otherwise we're having a really rough end of the final 11 games. But I'm very happy about that. But some people still choose to pick nits and try to discourage what someone's doing because it doesn't equate to what they think they see on, the analytical side, or what they think is proper baseball, or what is quote unquote clutch. You got to have that clutch gene when it comes to New York.
What's frustrating to me, and this is kind of what I was about to bring up, so I'll use James Dowling's comment here as a jumping off point. If he didn't hit the home run and the game got closer, fans would complain about that. He can't win.
He can't.
It's not, look.
I know the guy hasn't hit. Like I'm not trying to defend him, but still.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to turn this. The Mets have bigger fish to fry with 11 games left to turn this into the Pete Alonso defending hour.
Right.
Okay. We can do that at another time, another place, and I will gladly do it. You know that I will.
John.
But this is so true. You cannot clamor for a guy to do something, and then when he does it, be like, but that one didn't matter. Especially when you say, like Douglas said, 11 games left. It's all must win. You said, Ibby, in the last segment we did, 11 games. These are all playoff games. Would anyone in their right mind? Let me ask you this question. This is how I can put this to bed. If the Mets were, if yesterday was a literal playoff game,
yeah,
and Pete Alonso knocked in 5 runs, 3 of which coming on a home run late in the game to put the game away when they already had a lead, but theoretically making the lead, quote unquote, insurmountable.
Correct.
In an actual playoff game, would anyone call that a garbage time home run, or would they say that he put the hammer down and put the game out of reach?
Anyone with a brain would say he put the hammer down and out of reach.
Correct.
That's the way it would be, yes.
So if the Mets are playing with 11, or I guess yesterday, 12 games left.
Yeah.
And you've got to win out, as much as you can in order to make the playoffs. So your assertion is dead on accurate, where all of these games are playoff games. How could that be garbage? It doesn't. It's not. It can't be garbage time if he puts away a game that has playoff implications. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make, and Charlie chiming in with what I said before, it's never garbage time because it takes stress off the bullpen.
And we've seen what the bullpen's done lately. So it's like, I hate when that becomes a thing where it's like, it means nothing. It's like, no, every run matters. We've seen some hiccups within the pen. Everything matters. We saw Diaz, blew the save, lost the game against Philly on that Sunday. We saw things on Saturday. It's like, these things happen. Every run matters. If you have 5 runs and then you go up there and hit a 3-run homer to make it 8-1, yeah, it makes me breathe a little bit better. I like that. I want you to score more runs, okay? I want you to
Yeah.
keep tacking on. I want you to make it more difficult for them and easier for our pen so they can breathe a little bit, like someone said in the chat. That's what you want. Stop saying that things don't matter. Everything matters right now. Everything.
What did I say before when I made the analogy to the Jets game, and people were like, well, at least it was a good game. And I'm like, I don't want it to be a good game. I want it to be a blowout. I would love for the Mets. You know what, Pete? Go out, please. Hit more garbage time home runs over the next 11 games.
Please.
Hit one garbage time home run every game for the next 11 games so that the Mets can win every one of these games by 5 runs or more. I fucking beg you to do it. Like Rosie's saying, hey, you know, what does he say? It was, what was the line? I don't know. Like giving him, you know, stomach aches. It was torture. That's what.
Yeah, torture. Yeah.
Like it's torture because it's close. Yes. So is it torture because the games are close and because the Mets are battling every day? Well, if it's torture, then win every game by 10 runs, and I tell you what, it won't be torture anymore. Like it doesn't.
Yeah,
make
it's true.
Sense.
It's true.
And so, like, I don't believe in the rhetoric of garbage time runs in baseball to begin with, but if you want to poke fun at a guy not being clutch, and it's like, wow, you know, this guy has not been clutch, like Pete hasn't, right?
He hasn't.
He's got a terrible average with runners in scoring position this season.
Terrible against the slider, all this stuff. Yeah, we know.
If you want to sit there and you want to go, wow, man, you know, it's June 15th. And in a big spot, Pete's been terrible. But every time he comes up when the Mets are down 5 or up 5, facing a lesser pitcher, he parks one in the seats. It's really frustrating. On June 15th, if you want to poke a little bit of fun at that, I have no issue. But again, with 11 games left, and where it allows you to save your bullpen and readjust your bullpen, that home run from Alonso allowed the Mets to pitch arguably their 2 relievers that they trust the least to close out the game, Ottavino and Brazovan, who haven't pitched in a week.
Yeah.
They got to stay away from Buto. They got to stay away from Diaz. They didn't go to Stanek. They didn't go to Maton. And you're going to tell me with 11 games left, not overusing your bullpen doesn't matter? It's the dumbest thing. Like these people that just wax poetic about like, oh my God, like it was garbage time. It's this, it's that. It's so ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous take to have. It really is. It's a ridiculous take in general, but with 11 games left, it's the dumbest thing you could have. And like, look, I see this one from Shay. Once Pete signed with Boris, he became public enemy number 1. Unfair, but true. Whatever he does, there's a negative way to spin it, and it will be like that until he re-signs, unfortunately. That is so accurate.
It is.
Like everything about that is accurate. It's admitting the part, okay, you go with Boris, this is what you have to take on. It's admitting if you turn down an extension, which again, we don't have proof, but we have very reliable sources that he turned down that extension. You know, you do stuff like that, the fan base is going to feel a certain way, and it won't be resolved until you either move on or you re-sign. But it doesn't make – none of that makes it fair. Has he had a down year? Yes. Has he still had a good year? Yeah. Like, by his standards, it's down. But, like, you think that his 30 whatever home runs don't matter? You think, oh, because he hit him at this time and not this time? And it's dumb. It's all dumb. It's
yeah,
so
I just think that, again, like, when it comes to yesterday, like, overall – when you look at the overall picture, the overarching picture of Pete this year, terrible against the slider. His numbers have been trending down. Shout out to CP who did a great breakdown on that on his channel. And I think he also posted on Twitter. So he struggled against the slider and breaking stuff in general. He's been getting it more and more. His numbers with runners in scoring position, we know, sub 200, not good. Not a good Pete year. But in a moment where it mattered, in yesterday's game, putting 5 runs on the board for a team that's trying to win games, to handle a team that you're supposed to beat. I don't give a shit how you do it, man. Just do it. And he did it. You know, the seeing eye hit, the little bloop hit, whatever, for 2 RBIs on a 65-mile-an-hour off the bat. Like, I don't care. Like, that plays just as much as a 3-run homer that he hit at 109 miles an hour out of the stadium. Like, I don't care. He gave the team an opportunity to win yesterday, and that's what we want. We wanted someone to step up. Player stepped up yesterday. Alonso stepped up. Acuna steps up within your cycle. Okay, we'll talk about him in a little bit. But these guys did step up. They deserve their flowers for that. And now you got another game to play today. Go out and do it again. That's it. Do it again.
Yeah. Jump back into the comments for a couple things. What I said before when I gave you that hypothetical, Carlos Ortiz says, yeah, that's called putting the hammer down. And I like this from Armand. If Pete did that in that hypothetical situation, he would be praised on the radio, which is spot on.
Five RBIs.
Yep. If this game was, I know it's not 11 games in 11 days, but whatever, stick with me on this. If this game that he had yesterday happened 12 days in the future, he would be praised on the radio. They're going to drag him on the radio because it's not technically a playoff game, while they're also saying that the Mets are dead and out of it in May, and they have must-win games in June and July. They're going to use all of these fucking hypotheticals. They're going to use all of this hyperbole, and then yet they would praise him if what he did yesterday happened 2 weeks in the future. He would be universally praised. So that's why it's all bullshit. I like this one from... I get fired up when I got to talk about those two idiots. Can't wait to see Sal Licata at the Queens Baseball Convention, by the way. Shout out to Keith Blacknick.
If he shows up, I mean, he might not show up now because of you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he'll show up.
I'm by association, too.
Listen to me. It feels like that guy will do fucking anything for money. So I had no problem with him going with Boris. This is Douglas on Pete. I was hoping he would have played out of his mind to make going with Boris worth it. That's a entirely fair sentiment.
Yes.
Again, that's what everybody was hoping for. Go out there and have the kind of season that was going to make it hard for the Mets to re-sign you theoretically, because every team was going to knock on your door.
Correct.
It didn't happen. And now maybe it's easier for the Mets to sign him theoretically. Maybe it's harder. Who the hell knows? But I don't think, and this is the last thing I'll say on Pete, Ibby. Maybe it makes it easier for the Mets to keep him. Maybe it makes it harder for the Mets to keep him. I think the rhetoric with which the fans have turned on the concept of keeping him is insane. Like, that thought process of we don't need him doesn't make any sense to me. Now, we've talked about this a million times on the show. You want to say, I wouldn't pay him this money. I would give him this. I have the ceiling for the contract. It used to be this. Now I feel like it's more this. You could have those conversations all day. But for the people who are like, nah, don't need him. Where else are you turning? Where else are you getting, just put Vientos at first base. Okay. Then who plays third base? It's ridiculous.
When this was a much larger talking point, I remember Joe DeMayo's tweet, and he was saying how, look, if you can run Pete out of town. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Good luck finding power, because it's a hard thing to get. Don't bank on making, don't think that you're going to get someone just because you think that they're going to come to your pocketbook. Like, it's not always a given. Kevin Gausman, Yamamoto, yeah, we can have dreams of Juan Soto or Anthony Santander or anyone else. Like, you can have all these dreams, but doesn't matter until it's actually signed. So again, he had the conversation. The words came out where it seemed as though he feels confident that this is not going to be his last homestand. That could just be wishful thinking on his end. That's him just keeping positive. Maybe that is, or maybe he has something that he feels that is that's in the chamber, and he thinks that he really believes it. We'll find out when we get there. And the one thing I'll do to put a cap on all this is, I know people like to think ahead. We do it at times. We like to think ahead because that's the fun thing in baseball. We get to, you play GM, you put out ideas, you put out predictions and whatever. But where we are right now, I'm not focused so much on what could be, what's David Stern's going to do, what's this, what's that. It's more so the guys are here, support the guys, live and die with every pitch, embrace the torture, Rosie, embrace it as much as you can. I know you were about that Brave series, but embrace it as much as you can. This is where we are right now. And a lot of us didn't think we're going to be here, myself included. I said 84 was this cap on this team. They looked like they could be blowing past that 84. John was higher.
I said 89 in a wild card spot.
John was higher than me. I said 84 and just missing. So we've seen how these things can go. I'll gladly wear the L on that. I don't care. I want my team to do well. I want them to be here. I'm pumped up that I'm watching this baseball. Okay, I'm pumped up. Let's go. Let's do it.
89 89 wins in a wild card is like my version of Community's 6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah.
89 wins in a wild card, baby. No, and look, we keep saying we're going to put this thing to bed because we have to get on to other stuff. But this is, and Rosie tunes in basically every week, so knows exactly that this has always been my point. But Ibby, you know this too. This has always been my point. The Mets need to add power. They honestly can't afford to lose any of it. So if you're everybody who has said to me, forget about Pete, go get Soto. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. I love Soto. I wanted the Mets to trade for Soto when the Padres traded for him. I wanted the Mets to trade for Soto when the Yankees traded for him. I love Juan Soto. I think Juan Soto is unbelievable. When you couple his age with his ability, he is a freak of nature. The guy
perfect
is
player.
So
yes,
talented. Yes, he is the perfect offensive player in modern Major League Baseball. He hits for power, he hits for average, he drives in runs, and he has a great eye at the plate. He gets on base. The guy is frighteningly good. So my take has not been sign Pete and don't sign Soto. My take is if you've got the richest owner in the sport and you need power and you don't want to lose power, you sign both of them. Because if Steve Cohen is George Steinbrenner, that's what George Steinbrenner would have done. He ain't letting the homegrown guy leave to go get the other guy. He's getting both guys. So you want to be the big bad, go do that. And forget about being the big bad and the perception and, what that could mean and stamping the Mets and all. Forget about that. From a baseball standpoint, a lineup construction standpoint, the Mets need more power. And like Rosie says here, they can't afford to lose any of it. It's true. Now, look, Vientos has come on and given them a major boost in power. And he's hit, almost 30 home runs, and he missed, 2 months of the season. He didn't play here. So he's on track to be, if he played all season, the numbers probably project out to like 35, 38 home runs. That's massive power, right? Sure. But we don't know, I love Vientos' power, and I love that he's been here and been given this opportunity. We don't know that he's going to do that in the future, Ibby. We don't know about any of these guys.
No,
so you don't bank on it and say, because here's the thing. I also thought, we're talking about bold predictions here. I also thought the Mets were going to have 5 players this year, because I just looked at my predictions before we started. I thought that the Mets would have 5 players that would hit 30-plus home runs. I thought Pete, Lindor, Alvarez, Nimmo, and JD Martinez would all hit 30 home runs. How'd that work out? Pete did it. Lindor did it. Alvarez, I'm not sure what happened there exactly. JD Martinez, probably the thumb. And missing the time because of the thumb, and I think it sapped some of his power, even though they say otherwise. JD Martinez, obviously on the downturn here. And Nimmo was mired in such a slump that was absolutely horrendous.
He was tracking for it. He was tracking for it.
So I didn't even think that was going to be that bold of a take. When I made that, I was like, oh, that's not that crazy. All these guys can do it. And they're not really going to come that close to it. So listen, my point is this. The larger point is that when you are building a baseball team, you have to factor in all of these things. And for right now, leave the conversation with Pete right there, because I don't want to spend any more time on Pete and what's going to happen in the offseason, because the Mets have 11 games left and they need to handle business. Before we head into the break, Ibby, let's just talk about Francisco Lindor. Look, the MRI being clean is great. Him not playing is not great, right? They've gotten major contributions from Acuna. We'll talk about Acuna in the second half. But what do you make of this situation with Lindor? Where's your worry level? Whether or not he's gonna be back before the season ends. If he's gonna be back, to the way that he needs to be, the MVP player. Are we gonna get that same player back when he does come back?
I mean, I don't know. Once you have something that throws off your everyday routine in the back, as they were saying in the chat earlier, backs are tricky, man. Some of us in our 30s, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, your back's gone. These are professional athletes, and it's the same thing though. It's like some things as you get a little bit older. Now, I'm not saying Francisco's old; he's 30 years old, but the point I'm getting at is backs can be, debilitating in a sense if it doesn't feel right. Like, these guys swing hard. You're doing a lot of things. You're asking a guy that plays every single day at shortstop. This could just be normal wear and tear from someone that prides himself on being on the field every single day. My worry level went up just a little bit because I felt like when you say that meeting happens, it's almost as if you're bracing. Like, to me, like, originally when I first heard about it, I go, are they bracing the team to say that he's not coming back and like trying to rally and say, keep fighting? Like, that's how I originally took it. But if he's still throwing and he's still saying he feels as though he can be here, maybe it's, the proverbial coach speak, player speak, saying the right things type of thing. But for me, I said it before, if he's back by the middle part of the Phillies series, if he's back by game 3, so that would be Saturday, right? Saturday. If Frankie, I'm going to be in the building. It's going to be my birthday. Why don't you show up and play on that day? That'd be fantastic. But I think if he's there by then, I think it's a good thing. And I feel like for now, that's where I'm going to track it for. But if he misses the Phil series, is it the end of the world? No, but it's also dependent on what happens with these other games, with these other teams. So I'm not going to say it's the end all be all that if he doesn't show up, this team is toast or anything like that. I refuse to say that because they're fighting. Iglesias is playing well. Acuna shows that he belongs. Like, I still think that this team is going to fight until the very end. If they hold on, we will see. I feel confident that they will, whether Frankie is there or not. But I would feel a lot better if he's back by the third game of Philly. So that's Saturday, the 21st. If he's there, I feel fantastic. What he provides, that's anyone's guess, because who knows how much of an effect something like this might have on him. But he's throwing, he's moving around a little bit. Hopefully it's loosening up and he's feeling better. So I'm not going to sound the alarm. If you're going to ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, my worry, I'm going to put it right now at 4, leaning towards 5, like right in the middle.
I'll use that same scale and I'll just put it, for me, it's right in the middle. It's 5.
Yeah.
It's 5 because of everything we've talked about in the first 45 minutes of this show. This is the playoffs. These games are super important. The Mets need to win them. It's easier to win games when your best player is out there, especially when your best player is a true two-way star that plays great defense at the most important position and also hits 30 home runs and steals 30 bags, and his intellect and his ability, everything he brings to the table is so important. Now, having said that, I don't know what Acuna is going to be, but what he's been so far has been the perfect replacement for Lindor, because everybody knew he could play defense, and he's played defense. He's played his ass off, but he's also provided a ton of spark with regards to the offense as well. And I tweeted this out, and we'll talk about Acuna in the second half. I tweeted this out, and it was a bit tongue in cheek, but it's true. Like, I like, not love Acuna as a prospect, but sometimes guys just have it in their blood. And I'm not saying this means I'm wrong and Acuna is going to be a superstar like his brother, but if your brother is the guy that he is, and their father was a great baseball player in his own right, like, sometimes guys just do it. And you're like, I don't know how he's doing it. The peripherals, the numbers in AAA, and then they come up and they're like, nah, he's a star now. That's it. He's just a star. That's it. Like, they're built different, right? That's what that phrase is used for. Like, built different. So maybe that's the case. Well, go into the break on this, which I think is important. Douglas saying, power is a buzzword. Pete has 30 home runs and still has had a down season. If he had 25 home runs but more RBIs because he hit well with runners in scoring position, no one would be complaining. I think that's fair, and I think that's both a fair counterbalance to what I have been saying and what you've been saying, but I also think it sort of furthers what I think. This is a weird comment, weird good, in that it kind of refutes a little bit of what I was saying, and it also kind of proves my point, which is you don't throw it out. Like, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because runners in scoring position average being down, that could be a fluky thing. Next year, he could come up and he could 60 fucking home runs. I have no idea whether that's with the Mets or the Cubs or whomever. And then this one from Joe Prano. Shout out to Joe. Great guest on the show. I think 3-time guest of the show. Saying, imagine if Vientos hit 50 home runs instead of 30. You think any Met fans would be like, but it's cool if we let him leave 4 years from now. And you see what that ties into, because that's what Pete Alonso did.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's fine. Let him walk. Let him walk. Let's replace Pete with a guy who's 4.5 years older and Christian Walker. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Going from Arizona to New York. Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's an embarrassing sentiment to have. Now, listen, you want to go get Christian Walker in the offseason because you also got Santander and Soto. Fine. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like,
different things there.
If your thing is like, oh, we got Soto and look, we got Christian Walker. How great is this? Like, it's not great. It's going to be disappointing because Christian Walker's not as good as Pete Alonso. I don't care what anybody says. So, that said, it'd be 50 minutes. Let's head into the break. We'll come right back out. We'll talk about Acuna. We'll talk about the team's pitching. We'll talk about Steve Cohen and some of the decisions he's made, and even a little bit about purple seats and attendance at Citi Field. So all of that and more coming your way. If you're watching for the first time, you're like, I don't want to sit through a break. Don't worry. It is just a 30-second ad spot we need for the audio version of this show. John Saponaro, Matt Ibanez, Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, all courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. We'll be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. Once again, all courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. Before we get back into the conversation of our New York Mets, and of course, there's plenty to discuss with them very much in the thick of things for a playoff spot, controlling their own destiny, 11 games to go. We do have to mention there is over 150 folks watching live across both platforms. If you're watching live for the first time, you like what you're listening to, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, like the video, and especially if you're here for the first time, subscribe to the channel, because first of all, you'll never miss an opportunity to know when we go live. You'll never miss an opportunity to know when new episodes drop. And once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we are giving away what Ibby is holding in his hands, which is an autographed Edwin Diaz Mets baseball. There is no purchase necessary. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is subscribe to this show for free on YouTube, and you can walk away with an Edwin Diaz autographed baseball. We appreciate everybody who's in the chat and in the live stream every time, but we know that not everybody can do that every time or all the time, and we've got you covered there too. As soon as the episode ends, this lives forever on that same YouTube channel, which is appropriately called Til Mets Do Us Part, and that's why subscribing and turning on those notifications is so important. But if you can't do any of that, and we have loyal listeners who are terrific that sometimes don't have the ability to do that. Shay is back in the chat. Shay was somebody who was always with us live. Then Shay moved back across the country and has a lot of other stuff going on with moving and changing jobs and getting settled in. And so now Shay's caught replays of the show and also caught listening online, listening to the podcast. So the podcast version of this drops when we're done here. By tomorrow morning, you'll be able to listen to the show wherever it is you get your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all of those places and more. Ibby, before we get back to the Mets, quick word from Independent Safes.
Independent Safes, Sean, as always, are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes. Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. As you can see right there from the graphic, free shipping when you spend anything over $99. And spoiler alert, everything on there is $99 or above. So no matter what, you get free shipping. And as my partner has astutely said before, those things are heavy. So shipping, the fact that you're getting it for free, is pretty damn good. So check them out, independentsafes.com. Make sure you tell them that we sent you. They'll take care of you. They'll hook you up. And I don't think I have anyone that I want to put in an independent safe right now, except for maybe a radio station that has 4 letters. But outside of that, I don't think anyone's going in right now. Maybe just I'll put the back pain of Lindor in the independent safes. We can lock it away so we can get our MVP back. That's what I would do. Independent safes, check them out.
I like this, Mr. Nobody. Keep your Grimace collectibles safe.
Keep them in there.
In an independent safes. And Shay, you could have purple safes. I'm sure
You
independent safes
You
can
can
hook you
find
up
something.
with a Grimace themed safe. And Game for War on it. Don't forget the Manscaped ad. I mean, look, how could we forget the Manscaped ad? Great partners of the show over at Manscaped. You see the code. It is underneath the logo for the entirety of the show. We got to give them the full screen love. TMDUP is the code. That stands for Til Mets Do Us Part. You can use that promo code site-wide at manscaped.com. If you do, you get 20% off and you get free shipping. And like I say, every single week, if you watch this show, you listen to this show, and you say, you know, I don't think I'm a guy who's into manscaping, one, you should check yourself and just see, maybe ask some of the people in your life if you need to do that a bit more. I'm not saying it. I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying check with the people that you love and see. And the other part of it is they have a ton of stuff that maybe you don't even realize that they have, like the nose hair trimmer, the ear hair trimmer, like the beard trimmer. They've got all kinds of aftershave balms and lotions. They have really comfortable, really breathable, great underwear that you can get your hands on. It's not just about the manscaping that you think of. And if you're not sure, especially if you're not sure if it's for you, why not use the code TMDUP to get that stuff for 20% off and free shipping, especially if you're a little bit on the fence. Cheaper is better, Ibby. It's just
Always, especially the world we're living in right now. Things are expensive. Okay, use the promo code. Tell them we sent you, and free shipping is obviously great. And 20% off. It's something. Anything is better when it's cheaper. Okay, check them out, man. Manscaped.com.
Got it.
I got it. There we go. Manscaped.com.
Look, we Armand Grimace uses Manscaped and he approves. Stephanie said, "Don't worry, I will shame them, John."
Yeah, we're
shame,
ringing the bell.
Shame.
As we bring up another, that's 2 times Game of Thrones, twice. That's good.
Milo just trimmed my beard up with a beard trimmer from Manscaped, purchased with a code a couple months ago, and I love it. Milo, thank you for
thank you, Milo.
There, we appreciate that very much. This is true. Stephanie says after this is an important question from Douglas. If Manscaped, would he still be purple? Ibby,
that's a good question.
Do you think so? It's like the it's not like what color is the dress? It's more like,
right,
are zebras white with black stripes or black with white stripes? Like what's the, you know what I'm saying? So is Grimace, does he have purple hair? Does he have purple skin?
Like, is he just, I always thought he was just purple. Like I assumed purple skin. So if he's like, I don't think you would even, I don't know. Is he hairy? I don't know.
To me, I've always thought the Grimace is being a bit fuzzy, if nothing else.
Okay.
But
so if you shave that, is he still, I don't know.
I think Grimace is purple through and through. So I think
that's what I think.
I think it's a fur and skin combo. I think Grimace is just purple.
He's
so
just
you
purple.
shave Grimace down, that boy's still purple. Now this is another. Okay, see, this is how the show gets derailed in the best way, Mr. Nobody. Does he lose his seat if he's not purple? Yes.
Yeah.
If the seat is purple, the boy's got to be purple.
He's purple. That's what it is. He's purple.
Oh man, yeah. And then Charlie said he better be purple or they have to repaint that seat.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Oh man, John successfully avoiding the carpet and drapes comparison. Yes. We got a Amish Country Mets fan checking in saying, so this is a Grimace-friendly show. You're goddamn right it is.
Good to see you, Nelson. Hope all is well, my brother. Hope all is well.
I'll just tease this. If the Mets ever fucked around and won a World Series this year, there'd be a Grimace-themed tattoo on my body. I'll just say that much. That's going to happen. Okay. Here are 2 great points, similar points from Douglas and from Joe. First one from Douglas. I think the Mets can get to the playoffs without Lindor, but they won't go far in the playoffs without him. I'm more nervous he tries to come back early and can't play in the playoffs. And Joe said something very similar. This team can make the playoffs without Lindor, but they can't do anything in the playoffs without him. You got to sit him until it's desperate to have him back. Ibby, I think those very two similar comments, but I think the sentiment is 100% true, especially when you factor in, and who knows how long it'll last, the contributions you're getting from the rest of the lineup, and specifically Acuna right now. It's not urgent that Lindor come back. Would I rather Lindor play tonight? Sure. If he's healthy, I want him out there every night. But if he's not healthy, I think you have to move this goalpost as far back as you can.
It especially helps you right now because you have the 2-game cushion. So it kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room, and you try to, play your ass off, try to win a ball game tonight, and then go into the Philly series and see what he has. But yeah, I'm with them when they say that, yes, you can get there and play this right. If you win a couple of games here and there, you can play it right and you can make it in. And yes, you can question how far this team could go without him. And I saw something I think it was over the weekend, or like right when it happened, when everyone decided to just, jump off the cliff right away and get worried because he was hurt, not knowing how long he was going to be out and this and that, and seeing things from people that I actually like, but seeing things like, oh, if Lindor's hurt, I don't like seeing things like, I don't even want to make the playoffs and things like that because I don't want to lose because he's not going to be there. They're not going to win without him. So basically, like, don't waste my time type of vibe. And I'm just like,
that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's so stupid because it's like that self-loathing Met fan that comes out in some people. And I'm like, no, man, like, that's not what you do. If this team can win, allow it to play out. Maybe he comes back for the playoffs. Maybe he doesn't. Who knows? But the thing is, you want this team to succeed. You want them to do well. You want them to establish consistency, sustainability, whether he's here or not, depending on how this goes. No matter what, you want your team to make it in. So do I want him here? Yes, I love the guy. He's fantastic. He's so much fun to watch. But if he doesn't, does that mean I'm like, you know what, pack it in. Just, it was fun, but like these last 10 games, I really don't give a shit. So just, do whatever. Like, no, like, that's stupid. Like, you've come this far. Keep winning. Find a way to win. Hope that he gets back. There's no reason to shit on the entire idea of the playoffs just because he gets hurt. Do I think that they can go further with him? Yes, 1,000% I do. Do I think that you might be stifled without him? Yes, to an extent, because maybe eventually things turn and it doesn't work out as well for Acuna, because that's baseball and people start to see more of you and they know how to pitch you, figure you out. The use of technology that we talked about last week, where not everyone is always going to be like Mark, always adjusted well, even though he's slumped lately. But the point being, I think that in the long run, yes, I want him here, but by no means, based off of those tweets that I saw, do I think you pack it in just because he's hurt. You go out there, you find a way to win a ball game. That's it.
It's so foolish to me because it's like, again, these people who have those sentiments, and like, I get it, right? Like, there are people like Joe said something before about like how he's been hurt so many times by the Mets. He's cautiously, it's hard to be all in and believe. And, Rosie saying how it's torture, and that stuff is different from like, I don't want to be in. To me, that's insane. That is so crazy. Like, again, because have you not watched sports before? And I know football's not baseball, but like, Carson Wentz is going to win the MVP. He gets hurt for the season. Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl. Build a fucking statue to the guy. Like, stranger things have happened. That's why people like sports, because it's unscripted and it's unpredictable and you don't know what's going to happen. I want Lindor back right now. I wish Lindor was playing tonight. I've got the pregame on. I wish he was playing. However, Acuna could take the next 11 games. He could take it into the play. Acuna could be the reason why the Mets win the World Series. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, Ibby. I'm just saying that has happened in the past for baseball teams. Like, it could. I'm not saying that that's what everybody should put their all-in chips on, but it's like that could happen. So why would you not want to be there?
Yeah, it also shows that it also shows the lack of knowing what it takes to be in a spot, because a lot of teams, like you said, players get hurt, players get injured, others step up. It's like you want to see, you've seen the Braves do that. The Braves have been ravaged by injuries all year. Lost star player after star player after star player, which is why they're fighting where they are right now, because they're, in all actuality, they should be contending for a division if they were completely healthy, but they're still fighting. You find a way to win. Yes, this team is better with him. I want them to have him for this stretch run. And I agree with Douglas when he says you would feel a lot better if he was here. 1,000%. We are not discrediting that at all. But for now, where they are, 2 games up, find a way to win a ball game tonight. Maybe get lucky somewhere else and someone loses, whatever. I know the DBacks already won, but you hope that you can keep moving things forward. And to your point, John, you're pushing the goalpost back as far as you can with Lindor, as much as you can, because right now you have that distance of 2 games. So you have something to work with. I'm not saying just blow it and, blow that lead and then rush him back. You find a way. That's it. This is baseball. People have to step up. There's plenty of names on this team. This man has carried this team on his back for the better part of 4 months. He's been carrying this team. You have star players that are making big money or that have big prospect pedigree. You have to provide. He's done his job. He's done all of the heavy lifting. It's time for someone to help him. I hope Pete can do it. I want Nimmo to wake up. I hope Alvarez, who has 5 home runs in his last, 10 games, I hope he starts to deliver on a more consistent basis, because it's time for someone else to provide. I want him back, but someone needs to pick him up.
Yeah, look, this is my point. Joe kind of sums it up immediately. This isn't basketball. There's zero benefit to not making the playoffs. I've always said that with regards to just the way the MLB kind of de-incentivizes teams from spending and trying to be in contention, where it's like, if you don't see yourself as one of the top 5 teams in the sport, if you don't think you can win a division, if you don't think you can win a World Series, they're just like, I guess I really won't try all that hard. And then I guess if I'm doing decent at the trade deadline, maybe I'll try a little bit. Like, that's how the MLB has de-incentivized trying. But the way baseball, their playoff structure is built right now, you should try to make the playoffs every year, because if you get in, you don't know what's going to happen. And now speaking of basketball, with the draft lottery, the White Sox are probably going to have the worst record, basically in the history of Major League Baseball. They're going to beat the Mets record in 62, and they're not guaranteed to get the first pick. So right. Why would anybody tank? Your record is so bad. Why? There's zero incentive to not make the playoffs. Make the fucking playoffs. I don't understand. I do get some of the stuff that, what Douglas said. We brought up the comment, you don't pack it in, but you'd be more confident with Lindor.
Right.
Rosie saying, I think people are concerned because Lindor is the only one that's hitting and the offense disappears. It's concerning. Those are different thoughts. So I'm not calling out either one of them. Those are different thoughts than I don't even really want to make the playoffs if he's not going to play. What? Yeah. What? That's insane. That's insane. Armand saying the White Sox will get the 10th pick in the lottery.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up.
That's right. I forgot about that.
It's a whole lot of it. I want to bring up Rube's comment real quick. Saying how do we think the Lindor injury is more serious? That's why there was a team meeting. If you're coming in late, Rube, I did say something before where my initial thought was that when they called him in, I thought it was because they were telling everyone, look, it's a lot worse than we thought. He's not going to be here. But I'm not going to go down the negative route. I don't think that there's reason to until something else is truly told to us. If he's not going to play the rest of the way, eventually word will leak out. These things always find a way of getting into the media somehow, even though the Mets have been better about it. But I'm going to choose to think that it was a pick-me-up meeting because they're not sure when he's coming back, not so much where they know exactly what's wrong and know that he's not coming back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I also think it's great self-awareness by the Mets. You think that David Stearns doesn't know that Lindor was single-handedly carrying the offense?
No, of course.
You don't think Carlos Mendoza knows that Lindor was single-handedly carrying the offense? The moment they put Lindor into the leadoff position, the entire season changed. Of course, and this is a guy who, even if some of that wasn't the case, it's a guy who plays every game, every year. So, of course, you have to have that conversation because it's just like, hey, guys, we don't know how long it's going to be. Fortunately, the MRI is clean, but like, man, somebody's got to start doing some other shit because we're not going to have him at least for the next few games, and every game matters. So I think it could be that simple. The guy who's pitching for the Nationals today, I guess his name is DJ Hers. I guess
DJ Hers, yeah.
Yeah, looks exactly like Jesse Plemons. It's fucking weird. And because Jesse Plemons already looks like bizarro Matt Damon. It's too many things. It's like if you make a copy of a copy of a copy and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I looked up and he was on my TV. Okay, let's talk about Acuna. Look, the defense, well documented. The prospect status, the way you get him for Max Scherzer and a boatload of money, and they'll get all this Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander money coming off the books now next year, and the Mets are going to have Acuna and Gilbert and Clifford, in their organization with the ability to also go out and get whoever they want. Soto and Corbin Burns, Santander and Pete, and whatever machination that they want, they're going to be able to do that because they have the financial flexibility. And they also have, regardless of what you think of these people as prospects, they also have them. But Ibby, Acuna did not have a great year in AAA. He had a very up and year.
He did, yeah. We spoke about it many times on the show, yeah.
Because he would have been up sooner. There were opportunities when McNeil was at his worst. Acuna could have been here. There were opportunities when other guys went down. There was opportunities when the roster expanded. They went and got any fucking body else other than Acuna, and it wasn't until their back was against the wall. The reason why I bring up this comment from Douglas about Acuna's swing is similar to his brother with the emoji is because, Ibby, again, I'm not saying Luis Angel is Ronald Jr. I'm not saying that. But in the very, very, very short sample size that we have seen, he has squared up the ball. He has hit the ball a ton in terms of exit velocity, hitting the ball hard. He's driven the ball, and his swing does look very similar to that of his brothers. Again, Ronald Acuna Jr. is one of the 5 best players in baseball, arguably definitely one of the 10 best players in baseball. I don't know that Luis Angel will ever be that. But what we have seen so far is 1, not what has been reported, and 2, not even what he was showing in AAA. He is shown to be a bigger game player, playing with ice in his veins, being thrust into filling in for Lindor in the middle of a playoff race in his major league debut. And so if nothing else, no, I'm not saying that, Joe. Not saying that. I'm not saying that. But we all know, actually, Joe knows this probably better than anyone, that the Mets have a very bad history in previous regimes for decades of overrating their own prospects. Yeah. And I think this is maybe another sign that perhaps, because they've done it a lot with these guys, with Vientos and even Alvarez to a degree, because everybody said he wasn't a good catcher and he came up and he was a good catcher. Maybe the Mets are continuing to downplay how good their prospects might be able to be, like what their ceiling is. And I think that's a positive, if nothing else.
And I know that you put out that tweet last night saying how, and you mentioned earlier in the show, you said how, you weren't the biggest fan of him as a prospect, but that doesn't mean like you weren't a big fan of him, but like you weren't as high as you were on others, basically. And then someone tweeted you, and I really liked what they said. I don't know their name, but they left a comment that I agreed with 1000%. And they said something along the lines of, once they get here, and it's something that Minconi talked about too. And I know Joe DeMayo's in the chat. He loves John Minconi. And he had mentioned what we were talking about when we were talking about Beatty and stuff like that. But talking about, the heartbeat of a player. And I thought like this, and you're talking about the bloodlines and, knowing that you belong.
There.
Yes. The bloodlines and knowing that you belong and stuff like that. And it's like, he has been busting his ass to get to this point. Eventually, he knows what his brother is, and he wants to be here and, carve his own path, what have you. And you get up here and everyone thinks that, the lights are going to be too bright for someone, but he comes up in the midst of a playoff hunt, and he's playing in, defense late, and he's acting like a vacuum. And to Douglas's point, where he made like the six outs, 2 days ago, big outs, making good plays. And to Douglas's point just before,
and he was just brought into that game for defense, and he made like 6 of the last 7 outs or whatever it was.
Right. And then Douglas's point there, he says, Vientos fields the ball. It was the ball that he should have caught. It was an awkward angle, but he missed the ball, called an error, comes up next, hits a home run. It's like little things like that. It's like you're not allowing the game to eat you alive. And that is what we're talking about when we talk about a slow heartbeat. And maybe that has to do with the fact that he does have those bloodlines. Maybe it's the fact that he feels that he truly does belong. And maybe he'll be able to continue to do these things. Eventually the game catches up to you and you have to readjust. But what we're seeing right now, it's awesome. And he's doing a lot better than I thought he was going to do. Look, for a guy that wasn't hitting the ball that hard, to see him come up in a game and hit a home run 109 miles an hour, that's awesome. That's showing bat speed. That's showing that you do have that power in there. Is it going to be consistent? We'll see. But again, I'm not focused on what he's going to do for his career moving forward. I'm focused on what he's doing right now. And that's what everybody should be doing.
Yes, right now. And that's the theme of this show. Contracts for, like, pick your favorite player on the team. Doesn't matter who it is, right? Like, whether it's a homegrown guy, whether it's Pete, whether, oh my God, I love Jesse Winker so much, he's only on a 1-year deal. Whether it's, oh my God, I love what Severino and Minaya bring to this rotation. And now, with the news of Christian Scott not being able to pitch next year, oh my God, we got to bring both those guys back. It doesn't matter what the thing is. None of that matters today, Ibby. Luis Angel Acuña's future as a player does not matter today. Pete Alonso's future with the Mets does not matter today. And none of this stuff matters today. What matters today is today's game, going out, winning, and getting to the playoffs. I'm not saying this stuff is irrelevant. Obviously, it's important, but it doesn't matter today. Those are all conversations for what we hope is a couple of months from now. Carlos Ortiz with the hard-hitting question. Who's the original head of the table, Ronald or Luis? It's Ronald.
It's Ronald. Yeah.
He's the.
I will say Luis Angel is better than.
Am I saying that right?
Say again.
Ulafala is the thing that they wear.
Yeah. But I would say that Ronald is the original head of the table. He's the OTC. Luis Angel, I would say, is more. He's more Jacob Fatu as opposed to Solo. He has a lot more aura and presence as opposed to Solo. So I'll go that route.
He definitely does. Joe DeMeo bringing this up. The White Sox aren't allowed to pick any earlier than 10th. I did forget that when I was bringing it up. I didn't know that, which is insane. I mean, it's insane. Okay. So Ibby, this is a good one from Armand from a long time ago. The Mets starting pitching, how they rank in September. First in ERA, first in FWAR, first in home runs per 9, first in average, first in WHIP. I mean, that is the speed you were alluding to, and I just wanted to pull it up as we talk about the potential return of Kodai Senga. He met the media, said he's about between 70 and 80% right now. He will not come back unless he's 100%. Because he realizes how important the games are. Now, obviously, he would not be starter Kodai Senga, but he would also not be, the Mets have said they won't use him in the bullpen, so he would be opener Kodai Senga if he were to return at any point before the season's over or the playoffs. I think there's still plenty of value to that, if not just because it'd be great to have him back, like showing, this team has aura, this team has vibes, and having Senga come back and add to that in whatever way he can contribute, I think would be important.
Oh, 100%. And whenever you get a player like that to be able to come back and provide something for you, whatever you choose to do, I'm all about having said player. Whether it's, he comes back towards the tail end of this regular season, if that happens, if it was needed to wait a little bit longer and he came back and it was for the wild card, like close to the wild card, like whatever, anything that a player of that caliber can provide, I am never going to turn around and say, no, thanks. I'm with him. And I understand he knows his body. Like you want to come back when you're 100%. I think I also read or saw that he said that he believes that he would know if he would be 100% after he just throws one inning. I think I saw that before. It's like next week he's going to throw one inning, and he's basically going to say, "Okay, I'm good," which is wild. But he's like, "I will know when I throw one inning next week if I will be able to do this or not." And I'm not going to say I'm sitting on pins and needles for it, but like at the same time, I would love for him to come back. And to your point, it says it's a testament to where this team is and how they pulled themselves out and how they are, 15 games over 500 now. It's like you have put yourself in a position where a player of this caliber is not focused on just his rehab. It's not focused on being elsewhere. He's saying, no, I'm busting my ass. We're in a hunt here. I want to help. I think I can provide something. I'm going to see if I can do it. And that's a great thing in terms of building when it comes to a team for today, for tomorrow, and for the future.
I totally agree. Armand would rather not use him this year, save his ammo and be healthy for next year. But that's the thing. They're not going to do anything. We've seen how Senga, and to be honest, most Japanese players try to rehab from injury. They just take it a little differently. They know their body. That's what we saw when he was coming back from the first injury. So I don't think there's going to be any issue. I don't think the Mets would let him. I don't think he would let himself if he's not healthy. If he's healthy and he can throw one inning a week, I still think I think it's important. And Shea agreeing, just saying, use him. Yeah,
use him.
He's
healthy,
a part of the team. He's a part of the team. Use him. You're not going to do any. You're not going to hurt him. Like again, we're not saying rush him back. If he's healthy and he wants to pitch, he should pitch. And I don't care if that's 2 innings to start a game and then he comes out. Like, you never know, guys. Like, we've gotten great starting pitching thanks to the numbers that Armand threw into the chat from the Michael Mayer tweet. But we've gotten great starting pitching, and we don't know if it's going to last. We don't know if, maybe you want to have, Quintana pitch out of the bullpen. Maybe you have Senga pitch the first 2 innings or, whatever. You have Senga pitch, and then you have Tyler McGill come in. Like, this is what we're going to have to do because this is the hand we've been dealt with injuries and whatnot. So, look. The game's about to start here in a couple minutes. I do want to get to these last 2 points, though. I don't want to go too much into the game because you want to watch it. I want to watch it. Everybody in the chat wants to watch it. Let's talk really quickly about Steve Cohen's sort of announcement that was made today, which is the decision to basically, I guess, semi-retire from .72, and step down from an everyday trading role. And the way he described it is, he's still going to, I think it was like teach and train and mentor, then focus and mentor and focus on his other endeavors. But like his other, he did name the Mets in there, namely the New York Mets, rebuilding the Mets. So, look, Steve Cohen has been largely hands off in a positive way, where he's allowed his baseball people to make baseball decisions, and then he steps in when he's trying to get something over the finish line. Yamamoto, I'm sure he'll be in with Soto. So hands-on with, just with everything with Lindor and Nimmo. But I think this is a positive. I think it's a massive, I don't think it's going to wholesale change the way that Steve Cohen interacts with the Mets. I think he's still going to let his baseball people do the baseball thing. But if he did all of that stuff before that I just mentioned, like the Yamamoto stuff, him not being distracted at all by a quote unquote day job, I think is important.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't think much is going to change to the point you were just saying, how he's still going to allow his baseball people to do their job. I know that they just signed the woman to be the COO from the NBA, who everyone says she's like a superstar. So it was a huge hire for them. I think the focus is more so about continuing to repair and correct, in his vision, the image of the New York Mets, which goes hand in hand with a lot of our visions of what we want this team to be. I think that's the focus. Continuing to hire people that he feels that are going to make experience at the ballpark better, experience for the on-field product, like continuing to allow David Stearns to go out and hire the people that he sees fit, and to obviously attack said players, to your point, get them across the finish line in those areas. I think that's the focus. I don't think it's going to be more so him putting his nose into things and saying, it's my way or the highway type thing, like a Jerry Jones. I don't think it's going to be like that when he's going to dive more into the Mets. I think it's more so the background stuff, the books type of stuff. How can we better ourselves in these areas? Who can I hire? He seems very much like a person that says, I want to be successful. And in order to be successful, I have to put people in a position to succeed. Who can help me get to those spots? I'm going to hire this woman from the NBA. I'm going to hire David Stern to handle my baseball. I'm going to let him handle the baseball side. I'm going to hire so-and-so to do this, so-and-so to do that. Like, I think he is that type of person that allocates properly, and that's what he's going to continue to do, because if he does that and he succeeds, it makes him look good.
Yeah, I think this comment from Shay here, the Cohen news is nice and all, but I don't think it'll change how much he currently operates. I think it's to this comment's point and to your point, Ibby, I don't think it's going to change the way he operates from what fans see. But I think it might change some of the behind the scenes stuff. I think he's going to be more, not saying that he wasn't before, I think he's going to be more involved in the Mets because the Mets are going to become his primary focus. And so if that means, hey, we got to hire a new, person to run this business side of things, or we're having issues here with such and such a person that has something to do with, like the way the food management is handled from a vendor perspective. Like, I just think it's going to be stuff like that. I think, thank you for saying this, Armand. I think it's also some of the stuff around Citi Field. I think Cohen doesn't need any money. Cohen doesn't have anything to prove. Cohen is still going to make money from owning .72. I just think that now at this point, how old is Cohen? 60-something?
He's in his 60s, yeah. Mid-60s.
Fucking retire and do this. Why would you want to work? If I had $17 billion and I owned a baseball team, I wouldn't be working. You out of your fucking mind? Yeah,
Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Prano has decided to quit his day job and focus on the Mets. You heard it here first, everybody. Joe is out.
Oh, Joe, you kill me, man.
Anyway, back to the Mets, That's great. I mean, it has officially started. 1-2 count to Abrams. Quintana on the mound. So I don't want to take any more time to do anything else. Plus, I think Joe just nailed that with the comment of.
Oh my God!
So anything you want to say really quickly before we get out of here?
The only thing I'll say, and I'm not saying it to open up a can of worms. Obviously, let's go Mets. We want to handle our business over these next 11 games. Show next week will be on Thursday, not Wednesday. We will make sure that we put that out as a reminder Thursday next week, because I have 2 games I have to coach. So Thursday will be it. But when it comes to
the same time slot, though, right? Thursday
5:30.
5:30 Eastern. Yep.
Thursday 5:30, and we'll be breaking down the 2 games of that Braves. That's the midst of that Braves series. So it could be a big series of what's going on with everything. But the one thing I just want to put out there, don't take too much offense to all the nonsense that's being said about attendance and you're a bad fan or this and that. I just wanted to put it out there real quick, mainly because there's a lot of other variables when it comes to stuff like that. I love my team. You guys know that I love my team. I do a show with John on a weekly basis year round about the team that I love. Do I get to make it to the stadium on a weekday at the cost of things, at the price of things, at my job, there's no time. Okay. Yeah. Life takes over. It's a different time. So I'm working hard, but I'm going to do my best to be there on Saturday. Okay. And I'm going to try to be there for the last homestand, second to last home game of the year. I'm going to be there for my birthday. If you're there, come say hi. But anything that people try to push beyond that, I think is a little bit much. And it's not realizing how times have changed, how expensive things are. And I think it's improper to attack people for, calling them a bad fan in that sense. You support any way that you can. If you can make it, fantastic. But a Monday against the Nats, I know it is a playoff hunt. I get that. But I think you're crazy if you think on a Monday or a Tuesday you're going to get 45,000 people in the stadium. I think it's crazy. I do.
Yeah,
especially with the school year starting off. That's all.
Yeah, we're running again. I don't want to go too much into the game. No, you brought it up, and I do want to bring this point up because, look, I love Howie Rose. He's such a great fan. He's such a great Mets personality. He seems like a genuinely good dude. I know that he kind of not started it, but also furthered it by saying, it used to be people were here and it was rocking and everything was great and everything was perfect. Fantastic double play just turned by the Mets. Holy hell.
Who turned it?
It was Iglesias and Acuna up the middle with a scoop by Pete on the back end. It was great. It was damn. Okay. Oh, wait, are they saying he was safe at first? We'll see. Anyway, my point is this. Howie's a great fan, but Howie comes from a different time.
Different era.
He comes from a different era. You like they hit Howie and Gary Cohen. They used to sneak into games. They used to buy tickets for 5 cents and then go down and sit there. It was safe at first, not a double play, but okay. You know, they would buy tickets for 5 cents or whatever the hell it was in the upper deck, and then they'd sneak down. You can't do that shit anymore.
No,
everything costs you. Like you wake up and I'm like, listen, people who know me know where my social and political things lie, and this is not the place for that. It's just to say everything is expensive now. Everywhere you go. I woke up 2 months ago. I woke up in my apartment. I went and got a haircut. I got a bagel and I filled up my car with gas and it cost me $120. Just to, you know what I'm saying? Like I got a haircut. I got a bagel and a coffee and I put gas in my car and it was $120. I was out of the apartment for like an hour, so like everything it's just not the same. A lot of people are struggling, and I'm not trying to say this is the worst time to be alive or anything like that, but it's just like people are struggling and like you don't get it. If you're Howie Rose, I love you, but you don't get it. And just also the way people interact with shit has changed. You've got the ability to watch these games online. You have more people who are diehard fans that live other places. Like I remember my grandfather, I've told this story before, when the Dodgers left, he tried to follow the Dodgers in LA. It's the late 50s. He couldn't follow the fucking Dodgers. Right. And he did it for the Yankees, so that's how he became a Mets fan. But now I live in LA. You're going to, like, Ibby, are you going to sit here, like you said, like, anybody going to accuse me of not being a proper fan for only seeing the Mets once this year and not flying home because my schedule wouldn't allow it? I've got a Mets shirt on, a Mets hat, 2 autographed Mets things behind me. We do this show every week. We put our money, our blood, our sweat, our tears into this. Like, I don't want to hear it from anybody else. It's like, oh, you got to be there. And if you live close by and it's still a hassle, that's fine too. You're watching it at home. You're supporting the team. Would it be great if the stands were full? Of course. But I don't want anybody to, oh God, why aren't you there? That's insane. It's not fair. It's not fair to tell people how to end that way.
It's not proper, but let's end on a good note. Again, let's go Mets. Let's finish strong. Let's hope that Lindor is back by the middle of this Phil series, if not sooner. Hopefully the back heals up. Hopefully he's back to being the man that we love to watch on a day-to-day basis. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Appreciate all 171 of you here right now. Shout out to the chat. You guys rocked it today. Thank you so much for the support as always. We appreciate you through and through. Mm-hmm. Let's go Mets, baby. That's it. I'm good.
And just like Ibby said, remember next week and just next week, show is going to be a day later. So we'll be on Thursday, but we will put it out on on Twitter and we'll make the YouTube so you'll know, when everything is scheduled. But we will be on Thursday at 5:30 Eastern next week. And then we'll be back in our regular time slot the week after that. But keep that in mind. Like Ibby said, LFGM. I'm John. That's Ibby. This is Til Mets Do Us Part. Shout out to MANSCAPED. Shout out to Independent Safes. And of course, huge thank you goes out to John Manconi and everybody over at Brella Sports Network. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.